Hello, my name is Catherine Novak. Today is Thursday, May 28, 2020. And for those of you who happen to see my other video on the pandemic and working with the Dark Mirror Oracle, you may know a little bit about it already, but I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up in case you haven't seen that. So I have a business in downtown Urbana, Illinois, and I've been talking with people doing curbside pickups. And now, as of Friday, we will be going to be able to be open for guests to come inside. And a lot of people had questions for me, and I thought I'd address some of that in today's reading. Before I started this video, I spent a little time to meditate, and so I'm going to share a little bit of that with you, and I'm also going to pull a Dark Mirror card and do a little reading on that. So the question we're finding right now is, as we ask ourselves, is this over now? The country's opening, or most of the country's reopening, and if it's not obvious, the answer is no. We are looking at a reprieve, but basically a small one. Really, the best case scenario for us going forward at this time is that people follow best practices and that the recurrence is short-lived and mild. Most likely, the outcome is going to be not as optimistic. And it's really important that we come together and recognize that we are in this for the long haul. Short-term fixes will only postpone the inevitable. Okay, so that's the first takeaway that I had in terms of what's coming about this. So again, if you didn't see the previous reading, I'm going to explain a couple of things about the Dark Mirror Oracle. And this is a booklet that comes with the Dark Mirror. And it's an oracle deck is different than tarot in that each oracle deck has a little bit of a self-defined definition of what their cards are and the types of meanings and approaches. The Dark Mirror Oracle itself is, as it describes, pretty dark. It allows you to go into the deeper, darker, more shadow work types of places. And so when we work with this during a time that's got some pretty dark aspects to it, when we're facing with more than 100,000 people in just the United States passed on because of COVID at this date, it's a good tool for looking at things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a card to see where are we going with this reopening of the United States. I want to say this country because there's a lot of other countries besides us out there. And, oh, wow. This one is Bride in a Cage. And it's, if you notice, it's kind of a deathly figure. And what I do with the Mirror Oracle is, unlike other things, is I will I have to look it up. Now, the Dark Mirror Oracle, Bride in a Cage, the moon phase is waning crescent, the stage is denial. That's really true for this reopening. A lot of people are in denial about the fact that it ain't over. Tomorrow will be the right moment. Tomorrow will be better, even if today is hell. So the visual seed, and I'm going to pull this card up again, is a gorgeous white wedding dress shines through the neon gray, artificial light of the evening. It is worn by a mannequin with a disassociated skeleton head. It seems like a happy face, if not for the light. The mannequin stares at the outside while a purple laser grid cage holds it in. And the sentence associated with this is, did we die waiting for the perfect day, or were we never alive? So going dark is the description on this card where it says, what can the messages be for this? So it says, when we put the good of our life just in our expectations, we can dismiss the present, waiting for the dawn we know will arrive. The future becomes a shopping cart. It needs a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a few kilograms of this, and also a couple of boxes of another this. When we look at it, it shines like a brand new day in a commercial. And as it happens with commercials, when the future comes, it's not exactly perfect. The smile is forced, the day is too hot or too cold, the kiss is dry, the lion limps softly and doesn't roar. As long as something is not here, but is pushed further along the timeline, we have the luxury to take it off of reality and treat it as a fantasy. We push forward and we push forward until we actually catch up with our dream, and then we crush. And I think actually, it's because this is translated from the Italian, I think it's then we crash. The future should not feel like a cage, not even a gilded, wonderful, handmade designer cage. The future is a tree, gnarled, rough to the touch, full of flowers only in spring, dense and damp through the rain, absolutely imperfect. So, what does Bride in a Cage mean? Well, as far as our reopening is concerned, there's a fantasy that everything's going to be all right. We've got this fantasy there when the reality of it's not anywhere near. So the card that I pulled in my deck is the Seven of Discs. The name attributed in my tarot deck, the top deck that I'm reading with, is called Failure. And it's not the most optimistic view of the reopenings. So I'm going to stick with what I said initially, which is this looks like this is a small reprieve. It's really important not to assume that because we're reopening, it's okay to go out and live life as we lived it before. And what I mean by that is we do need to take precautions. We do need to wear masks. And if you haven't heard this already, wearing a mask is, at least for the general public that's not working in healthcare, is to show our respect and protect others. And that's really important to go forward. For those people who it's really uncomfortable to wear a mask, you may need to continue to do curbside pickup. If you can, get help from neighbors or friends or family so that you don't have to put yourself at risk. But it's not appropriate that because you don't like to wear a mask, that you just go out and don't wear a mask, because you can't assume that you won't infect other people or pass something along. I mean, you might be one of the lucky ones who's not asymptomatic. In other words, you have no symptoms, but you have COVID. Wow. This is definitely not an optimistic reading. What I'm seeing here is the Tower card. And people that know I do readings, is this is going to be a rude awakening for a lot of people that are if you haven't had your eyes open all along, this is what's going to happen in this reopen is going to really open people's eyes up. And I think this is with respect to, I say it's going to be pretty bad in terms of the spike. I hate to go off of the Spanish flu of 1918, which is when they reopened. It was actually worse upon the reopening and the surge and everything. And some people were wearing masks, mostly healthcare. But this is saying you need to be prepared. And so don't be casual. I would say be guarded in how you're approaching things. And really take care of yourself as well as the people that are around you. This is not the time for the vulnerable people to be going out and partying, okay? Because the actual information on transmission and how this process is difficult and changing all the time. The Seven of Cups comes up. It's called Debauch in my deck. You're going to see a lot of people that are going to be doing stupid things. Lake of the Ozarks is one example for the Memorial Day weekend, if you've heard it on the news, about how people got out there and supposedly they measured temperatures, but people were so crowded they weren't following social distancing requirements. Um, it's really important to take care of yourself and avoid getting caught up in the drama of critiquing other people who are not following social distancing. Hopefully, their lessons that come out of this won't be as harsh, but it's really not your job to police it. But you can insist on having very healthy boundaries for yourself. And that's really what's important going forward, is to have healthy boundaries for yourself. This is the Four of Cups, and in this particular deck, it's called Luxury. I see a lot of different things when I look at this card. Some people going forward really do have, I'm going to say, the luxury of being indulgent, not worrying about other people so much, because economically they're in a pretty reasonable place, and that could be because they're retired, they can work remotely, whatever their particular situation is. I'm going to come back to that possibly. Let's see what other message there is. Okay, the Princess of Discs. So princesses in this deck relate to pages in other tarot decks, and discs deal with health, wealth, things like that. And she's very focused, and it's interesting because in a way she's focused on kind of the life's luxuries. There's this very rich kind of fur coat that's on the ground. But I also see this as being, you need to be focused on what you need to take care of yourself. And I don't mean about hoarding or things like that, but if you need to not go out as much. I mean, I know we're all kind of itchy to want to go out and play and do more things, but it's really important to not push on that level at this point. And I'm going to see if we have one more card here. Okay, this is not. So the five of discs is called Worry in this tarot deck, and in a more traditional tarot deck, it's this image of people who are passing under a church window and not seeing what resources they have or where they can go for help and things like that. And this next phase is going to be very concerning for people. It's really important to, where you can, be supportive of other people and without necessarily putting yourself at risk. And I wanted to see if something else was going to come up that was going to be a little more positive, but the Ten of Wands comes up. This card's called Oppression. And typically when I see this card, we tend to approach things the same way over and over again and feel like we're blocked. And I like to point out to clients when I do readings with this card and it shows up, that the fire that's here can pass through those gates. And so it's really important to focus on different approaches. The old saying is, doing the same thing over and over again is insanity. We need to switch up how we're approaching things. And that can be in our personal lives. It can be in society, and in honoring each other, and being more positively focused. If there's things that you have that you were not able to put into place because you had to go into lockdown wherever you are pretty quickly, you can use this time to get out and prepare for the next time. It's very likely that if you've had a business And like myself, my business is Beads and Botanicals in downtown Urbana, Illinois. We're reopening this Friday on limited hours. It's really important to make sure you're as safe as possible in opening your business or in getting out. But don't assume that's going to be the same going forward. What I mean by that is don't assume that you're going to be able to stay open or going to be able to freely move about. Make plans for the second wave. And a lot of people have been talking about a second wave in the fall, and it may be that we don't see the full results of it then. But I've been getting the impression and messages that it's coming sooner than that. So we'll probably get through most of June, but I'm anticipating that we're going to see rather large spikes, especially when I'm looking at this reading, by the end of June and continuing to build. So do what you need to do to be safe, be kind, be compassionate with yourself and other people. And this is really a time to be kind and compassionate with everyone because everyone has been stressed out. And so going forward, if you're thinking about, for example, you want to vote by mail, make sure your address changes are in. If you have any other kind of documentation or paperwork that you need to do in other areas, take care of those things now because it's not likely that it's going to be as simple a month from now. Okay? Be blessed, be safe. And if you would like to do a private session with me via Zoom or Skype, please reach out to me at Beads, BEADSN, Botanicals, BOTANICALS @gmail.com. You'll see information on the description telling you how you can reach out to me. And be blessed. I would love to talk with you. And let's hope for a more positive future. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm concerned that this reading is spot on. Take care, peace, be safe, and be well.